Hello, welcome to Hope Matters, a production of Mount Olive Lutheran Church here in Santa Monica, California. I'm Pastor Shafer, the senior pastor here at Mount Olive and the host of Hope Matters. And we're producing these programs each week because we believe that hope matters. Each week, I talk to an interesting person from around the community and around the country, around the world about the theme of hope. And my guest this week is Dr. Mollie Bond, who wears a number of hats. She for her money to keep doing the other things she's doing. She works for Lutheran Community Services of the Northwest. Did you say Washington, Oregon, right, Mollie?
Washington, Oregon, and Idaho.
And Idaho, all right. But she's also an author and a coach, and especially works with women in nonprofits. So let's actually start there. We could talk about LCS a lot, I'm sure, but and we should. But your focus on working with women, Mollie. What do you do? How do you come to it? What's your hope? But anything you'd like to say about that?
Sure. So I am a working woman. And about a decade ago, I realized that the organization I was working for didn't have the resources to be able to invest in me and my personal growth. And so I went looking around. And lo and behold, I found a doctoral degree in nonprofit leadership. And so as I was going through that program, I realized that women can excel in the workplace, and they are a vital part of the way that we serve our communities and the ways that we help each other and serve each other. But we just weren't quite connecting the dots between encouraging women in the workplace and helping them thrive in the workplace. So my doctoral work is around mentoring women of Generation X, helping them to get past that barrier that their generation often puts on them as a smaller generation in the United States. And so from there, when I graduated in 2017, I realized that this is not the end of my journey, and that there are many ways that I can help encourage women and help them to maybe have a catalyst to help them speed past the places that I was in, like I said, about a decade ago. So I talk to them and help them explore what success looks like for them. What is that level 2.0 that they're trying to get to? We often talk about things like work-life balance and what things look like when you're feeling a challenge or that you're hitting that ceiling at work. And then we just work for getting past those limiting beliefs and helping them find their true identity and their true sense of where they need to go next. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So how do you find these women? How do they find you? How does that work?
Yeah, oftentimes people find me on LinkedIn. You can search for me, Dr. Mollie Bond, and you'll find me on there. Or it's a friend of a friend of a friend. Oftentimes that happens too. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun to be able to hear women's stories and hear where they want to go. And God has done some really amazing stuff through that.
Wonderful. And then you have a new book coming out that'll be, let's see if I can get it on my camera here, Hopelessly Hopeful, and coming out in September. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Yeah, so the book is called Hopelessly Hopeful During Separation. It's a 28-day devotional for people who are separated from their spouse due to some kind of marital strife. And it all came about because when I was in that place, when I was separated from my now ex-husband, I realized there were a lot of books about divorce and a lot of books about reconciliation. But what I needed in that moment was somebody to say, wow, this really sucks. And so I created a devotional that guides a reader, whether you are looking toward reconciliation or toward divorce, to look to the Lord first. It's important to keep that contact and to learn and grow about yourself as you're in that space. And of course, Hopelessly Hopeful is the theme of the book. I think hope is almost tangible and you can't live without it. Faith, hope, and love, the greatest of these are love, but hope is also mentioned in that too. So I find it really important to ground yourself not only in the Lord and in a daily time with Him, but also to have that hopefulness that there is a future for you.
So it's a devotion book that you're.
It is. It's a 28-day devotional. So just long enough to get you into a habit of meeting with the Lord every day, but not long enough that you're anticipating to be separated for a long time.
So the focus is the woman who's in that in-between stage then, would you say?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that men might be able to also glean some ideas and some concepts. There's a few exercises along the way. But it really is a companion piece. And since most of the time I'm speaking to women and learning from women, and quite frankly, I'm so grateful for the women who shared their stories in this book, it does lean itself toward somebody who is a woman and separated from their husband.
Okay, well, that's, as you say, and I would say as a pastor, that's a niche that there isn't much help available for. That's bad grammar, but you know what I mean. And my mom, the English teacher, wouldn't have liked that sentence. But anyway, it's a group that can use some help in that transition time. For certain,
Certainly.
for certain. What else do you see about Generation X, women and men? Is there something unique about them in society and in their issues? They're a little
Yeah.
sandwiched. They're a little sandwiched. I think you implied.
Yes, they are certainly sandwiched. So when we look at generation sizes across the United States, the baby boomer, of course, is a very large generation,
That's me.
and they are slowly trickling out of the workplace, but they're doing so at a pace that is slower than what we had anticipated as researchers. There's also the added bonus, we'll call it, of so many baby boomers who are retiring from their full-time work and then wanting to give back to the community and realizing that the nonprofit industry and the nonprofit sector is available for them for that, and that they can still get paid while they do it. So a lot of those folks are coming from the corporate world, shifting into the nonprofit sector, which is lovely. But then what happens to Generation X women? Now, roughly, those are people born between 1974 and 1985. It depends on who you're following on how that's defined. But a lot of these women were working in the nonprofit sector, going up the ladder, making their way through all of these different transitions and experiences, maybe keeping their eye on the prize of that executive director role. And yet somebody came in and swooped and took it over. And yet they're not quite old enough. And yet the executive director, well, maybe I'll stick around for a little bit longer, or even founder syndrome. So all of these different elements are keeping people who have leadership gifts, who God has equipped to become part of those leadership roles, and they just feel a little stunted. Now, what I learned and what surprised me, quite frankly, was I thought things like role and money and challenge and supervising more people. I thought those would be the things that would encourage women to stay in the nonprofit sector, to stay in their roles, to help make our communities a better place. It's not. What actually helps women progress are relationships. It's the interaction, it's the you've been there, I'd like to learn from you. And so, what that led me toward was that mentoring is a really great way to help women of Generation X to reach their goals. Now, it certainly is a theme of the book too. This portion of encouragement and relationships, and who do you talk to in those very tender and susceptible places where everybody's telling you what to do, right? Everybody's brother's girlfriend's ex-husband's cousin has also been separated, and here's what they did. But what I'm learning is that encouragement and relationships, and again, clinging to the Lord, are the best ways to get through any kind of challenge, whether that be at work or if you're having some kind of difficulty with your husband.
And that doesn't apply to just Gen Xers, of course, does it?
No, now that you mention it, it certainly doesn't.
It doesn't. And the other piece I would add to it is shut up and listen.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's mainly for older white males, heterosexual males. I mentioned that in my sermon on Sunday actually too. But it's time for us to shut up and listen.
That is so valuable. Listen to each other, listen to our colleagues, listen to our spouse.
Listen to God, and
Absolutely.
those kind. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So wonderful. So Well, you've already talked about hope in terms of women going through the difficulty of separation and divorce. But what gives you hope, Molly, when you get up in the morning, and you open up your eyes? What gives you hope for the day?
Yeah, it's encouragement of others, I think, that really helps me to wake up and get motivated and get started on my day. I can certainly remember times where, I just wanted to roll over and could not get my head out of those covers. But what I realized was that if I just take small little steps, all right, this is really hard, but right now I'm just going to put my feet on the floor. And then once I get my feet on the floor, okay, right now I'm just going to stand up and start to think about what I need to do to get myself a glass of water. It's those little steps that help us get through the day, especially when we're suffering or when we're struggling or when we need a little bit of comfort ourselves. So, taking those little steps helped me to realize that I can take larger steps. So, these days, I'm excited and passionate about the work I do at Lutheran Community Services Northwest. I'm certainly excited and hopeful about some upcoming college classes that I'm teaching for nonprofit leadership and just being with each other and interacting with each other as we come out of perhaps a pandemic and a post-pandemic, seeing people even online, connecting with them has given me a lot of encouragement and a lot of hope.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Well, thank you for being with us this week on Hope Matters, Molly, and we'll look forward to your book. Your book is due out on what date?
So the book is being released on September 28th. As you may know, the more pre-sales and pre-orders on Amazon, the more visible the book will be to everyone. And the more visible the book is, the more that God can use it to help people and to glorify his name and to give them hope. So
So
you'll find
if
it on
someone
Amazon.
goes to Amazon now and looks up Mollie Bond or Hopelessly Hopeful, they'll find it, won't they?
Yes, they certainly will.
I did the other day, and it did invite me to pre-order it. So it's there, folks, if you want to take a look. And maybe we'll get Molly back in the fall when we can talk more about the book and how it's been received. Are you going to do a book tour?
Certainly am. So just lining up some dates in some places. I'll be in Chicago quite a bit. I am greeting you today from Washington State. So of course I'll be around there and in Oregon and Idaho as well.
Wonderful. We'll look forward to that. Thank you for being with us today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
I sure do appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. This has been Hope Matters, a production of Mount Olive Lutheran Church in Santa Monica, California. I'm Pastor Eric Shafer, the senior pastor at Mount Olive. Our guest has been this week Dr. Mollie Bond, who's a nonprofit executive, a teacher, a mentor, and an author, and has a specialty in working with women of Generation X, but works with a lot of different people on their careers and their hopes and their dreams. And we're so pleased that you're with us to talk about that today, Mollie. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will see you next week on Hope Matters, where we'll talk to another guest about the theme of hope, because we believe in a God of hope, and we believe that hope matters.